A rapper named Nipsey Hussle started from the bottom and rose to the top of his career. He transitioned from street life to entrepreneurship and gave back to the community.
However, his life would suddenly be cut short. Join us as we discuss the triumphs and the tragedy of this amazing artist.
What are you doing, Agent Wells?
I'm listening to some hip-hop music as our case involves hip-hop artist Nipsey Hussle.
Sounds great. Looking forward to diving into the case.
We be on the case staying the course, cause no one rocks like Crime Force.
No one rocks like
Oh my goodness, Chirac. And I have to do a little quick shout out for myself. That was some music that I created. I know, not much on them. Anyhow, if you're new here, let's introduce ourselves.
It's your girl Chirac.
And I'm Ed. And this is for
Entertainment and education purposes only. Please do your own research and always be kind to everyone.
Now I want that music in the background. Boom, boom, boom. We should have had that going. Boom. I don't think I have it on here. I have other music stuff. Let's see. What do I have?
That was a nice beat.
No. It's not the same.
Nah, that one is cool.
Oh, guys, sorry. These people want to hear us talk about Nipsey Hussle, so let's get into it. But before we do, I want to let you know we have another show. If you like watching scary videos and getting like jump scared and get that adrenaline rush and stuff, check this out. This is just a quick promo, and then we'll come back and get right into it. Thanks. Join us at the Jump Scare, where we watch and react to scary and strange videos. But there's a twist. As you watch, we throw in our own jump scare videos to keep you on your toes. Do you have nerves of steel? Prove it by taking our challenge for some added fun. Watch with a full mug of water, preferably with our logo on it, and see if you can stay steady and dry. Please be safe by keeping the water at room temperature and holding the cup away from anything that can be ruined, like electronics. Let us know if you kept your cool or ended up all washed up. All right, we're going to get started. So sometimes we'll give you the background, but a lot of times we like to promote other creators because I think this is a great community. So today we have a video that we're going to quickly watch by Publish X. Please go over there, subscribe, share, comment. We're going to comment along the way. That's how we put our own, customize, make it our own. And we have to do that for copyright purposes, but also too, we want to react to it just as much as you guys are watching and looking at it. So we are going to get started here. Let me just get the video up and running, and let's kick this off and see what we have here for Nipsey Hussle.
It's your boy Nipsey Hussle right here live and direct on Slauson with the Slauson boys. Hottest shit on the street.
The hip-hop stars ultimately and violent death. Nipsey Hussle was murdered in broad daylight.
I like the intro.
Got beat up, stomped out, fucked over in the back of these buildings all the way down to Hyde Park. This 60th right here. This is where the enemies ain't gonna come. They not
The
gonna
volume's
no
low,
pump on this
guys,
block.
so
You feel me? But
I missed
other
that
than
one shot.
Hermes was born August 15, 1985 in South LA's Crenshaw district. Although his parents separated, he grew up with both his mom and dad in his life, and they only lived a few minutes apart. His family consisted of himself, his little sister, and his older brother, who he would later refer to as Black Sam. Hip-hop was always a part of his life. As early as 6 years old, he was already memorizing songs by his favorite rap group, Criss Cross. At the time, a lot of young artists were getting signed to labels and blowing up, so as long as he could remember, his only goal was to make music and sign a record deal.
I know.
As a child, he was already writing his first rhymes, expecting that this would happen to him too. But when it didn't, he decided to give up.
I thought I was gonna be like a young artist signed when I was a little kid. I guess when I was probably 8, 9, my goal was that by the time I'm 12, 13, I'll be signed and cracking.
A lot of people think that. Yep. It's a good shot.
Yeah.
Shoot for this moon.
He's been doing this for a while.
Growing up, his older brother Sam was always a huge influence on him. He looked up to him. As he grew into his teens and saw how Sam hustled for different streams of money, this motivated him to go get it as well.
We've seen that a lot.
In 6th grade, he was already working his first job shining shoes at a shop around the corner in Slauson. Some days he was making almost $100.
This
was a lot of money for a kid his age. And even if he wanted to spend it all, he couldn't. So he credits this to teaching him how to stack and save his money.
You see?
This
That's
only
key.
made him want to
So
make
everybody
more,
needs to learn.
so he started
Yep.
selling candy and mowing lawns on the side too. Even though he enjoyed making money, in the
I
back
love
of his
you,
head he knew he still
Hustle.
wanted to pursue
That's
music.
I know we
A
get the
friend who
hustle
lived
from.
across the street from him was the only one on the block who owned a computer.
You see?
He used his money he saved up to buy a microphone, and at just 11 years old, he recorded his first song ever over a Snoop Dogg instrumental. His mom saw how interested he was in music, so she ended up signing him up for a program that took kids to
See?
music
He
studios
got
and taught
that
them how to use the equipment.
Support.
Because of this, he
Yeah.
gradually
What you
started
need.
to learn how to engineer his own music as well as make beats. His beats were actually what started to get him recognized in his neighborhood, as his friends started asking him for production. Despite all the side hustles he did to make cash, he still couldn't afford to buy his own studio equipment, as it was very expensive back then. So at 13, he started exploring other options.
Probably could've
This is where he
rent,
made
though,
his
right? Go
entrance to the
studio
gang
and rent
culture.
something.
It's tricky, I was trying to get low. I felt guilty asking mama for shoes. Weekends at my dad's house. Granny face on the news.
It's hard. You need time, make
More
that bigger
specifically,
money.
he joined the Rolling 60s Crips, which was the most
yeah.
dominant gang in the Crenshaw area. With this came his introduction to selling drugs, fights, and shootouts. But in the back of his head, he always knew he had a bigger picture, and
Exactly.
he knew he didn't want to do this forever. In the meantime, he was making a lot more money now, and he could afford to
Yeah,
invest
next
in
level
himself,
stuff.
unlike before.
Yeah.
Less work.
Because of this, he ultimately dropped out of high school in 10th grade. Although he was capable of finishing it, it just wasn't the focus at the time. His mother, of course, didn't react well to this, and
Look at
even
that Gucci
changed the
hat.
locks on the doors after kicking him out of the house. He moved around the corner to his grandma's, but he says this only provoked him more, as he was now unsupervised and could hang on the block all day. Being in the streets never distracted him from chasing his dream of music though.
Probably gave
At
more
about
writing
15, he
material.
really started to consider
more
it a
in the
way
culture.
out. Initially, he was rapping under the name Concept. He ended up forming a rap group with his friends,
didn't
which
know
included
that.
a guy named Brian, who you might know as Kid Ink now. Their group was called the Stranded Minds. They ended up getting their hands on enough equipment to record and brought it back to their friend Rimpa's house. This is where their grind started. One day he was recording and realized he needed a name that better suited the way he lived. A friend of his named Baby Gooch told him to give him a few days and he'd come up with a name for him. He ended up leaving the house that day to make some money, and when they all met up a few days later, Baby Gooch saw how easy it was for him to make cash, and he told him to rap under the name Nipsey Hussle. This was a
describes me
reference
well.
to Nipsey Russell, who was a
Nipsey
poet
Hussle,
and comedian
yeah.
in the 1950s,
Yeah,
and they
he's
just
funny.
changed it around to better suit
That's
his
more our
lifestyle.
early
Meanwhile, this is going on,
years,
Nipsey is still
70s.
very much in the streets and still gangbanging, and his reputation was starting to spread. He dropped his first mixtape in 2003 titled Fuck the
Wow.
Middleman, which he sold out the trunk of his car in the hood and performed at small parties on the
That's
block.
hustling right
Yeah.
there.
This was also around the time that his mindset started to change. When he was 18, his family took a 3-month trip back to his father's homeland, and when he saw how people were living over there, he realized how blessed he actually was.
Yeah.
When he returned, life in the streets were also becoming
Okay.
more dangerous. He was involved in a shootout that was caught on camera. Nipsey was never identified, but a few of his close friends were. When he saw the sentences they received, he realized
It's
this
like, hell
life was
no.
only going to lead him to jail
Exactly.
or death.
People are
And this moment changed his life.
He was smart.
He sold his white Lincoln to a friend, and he and his brother went 50-50 on building their own studio.
That's what's
He
up.
knew it was time to invest
People don't
everything
know
he
how
had
much.
into himself
That's
and
a
his
lot of
brand.
money. A lot of money.
In
We're
early
talking
2005, he filed the paperwork to start
hundreds
his
of
own label
thousands.
called Slauson
When you
Boys.
sacrifice
With his
your
own spot to
vehicle?
record at, he was able to turn out music much faster. In December of 2005, he released his mixtape Slauson Boys Volume 1. He printed out copies and gave them to everyone he knew to help
Sounds like
pass
my
them out.
MC Hammer
His
did.
pitch was, if
Back
it's
in
whack,
the-
throw it out your window. And because of this, he says a lot of people actually took it
Like
and
the guy at the
listened.
gas
That was my sales
station.
pitch. I'll be
Oh,
on
yeah.
Crenshaw and Slauson in front of the Master Burger. I just thought it was so many people that was, check my CD out, buy my music.
Yeah.
I wanted to distinguish myself, so I'm like,
I'm gonna pause there for a second. I gotta tell a little story. So there's a gas station not too far away from here. I'm hanging out, and there's this guy. He's probably close to my age. I won't say what my age, but let's just say he's definitely middle age. He comes up to me. He says, "Yo, you want to pay? You want to buy one of my CDs?" And I am 100. She knows. There's people on the street performing. I'm throwing money. Like I love supporting local music. So I'm a
Exactly.
musician myself.
Supporting
so
people.
I like took the CD. And man, I threw it out. I listened to the whole thing. Every
it's
song
funny.
started with something from Scarface. And it was
Oh, yeah, that's
every
true.
song started with like 30 seconds, I'm not kidding, to 90 seconds of like some drawn out stupid thing. And then the music was like,
Not good.
no, it was dated, but not good dated. It was like not as cool as like the early hip hop rap, and not as good as like the new stuff. It was just this weird. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
I felt bad, but I threw it. Sorry, dude.
If
If you're watching, I
still
threw it
gave
out.
him money.
I still gave him money support, but that is the way to hustle. So I love that.
Love that too.
Sorry, I had to stop it because that would
Okay.
be too much talking over the thing.
If it's whack, throw it out the window. I'm gonna sit right here. And a lot of times they'll be like, just cause I said that, like, man, let me check that out, huh?
Family broken, so I stand with my niggas. Showed up to every shootout, but I ran for my feelings. No time for those, I got a plan to get millions.
His buzz locally started to form, but it was still very small. A friend of his named Big U saw the work he had been putting in and offered to manage him. This ended up being a great move for Nipsey, as Big U had many connections. One of those was a man named Steve Lobel, who heard the Slauson Boys mixtape and loved it. Now Nipsey had two managers. Steve and Big U pushed his vision like it was their own. His managers even got him his first taste of the mainstream in 2006 on Tupac's posthumous album, Pac's Life, where Nipsey featured on a song. But just as everything was going well, he was still facing setbacks. In November of that year, his brother's house got raided by the cops, and they ended up taking all their studio equipment. Nipsey ended up facing charges as well for a shotgun they found. This setback caused him to hit the streets again to make some money for a lawyer, but luckily for him, he already had a lot of music he previously recorded. He put that music on a demo tape, and one day he was on the block when rapper The Game pulled up to a red light. Nipsey gave The Game his demo tape, and he ended up calling him that night to work. The Game wasn't the only one taking notice of Nipsey's hustle, and a film director even reached out that same year, casting him in the Bone Thugs and Harmony movie, I Tried. While on set filming the movie, he would meet Johnny Shipes, who had his own label under Sony and Epic Records. He was the only person at the time who was willing to take a chance on Nipsey because of his gang affiliation.
And he was like, well, there's this kid Nipsey Hussle, but he's a real street dude. I don't know if you're gonna wanna, he's in the mix out there. So I looked him up and he had like one song on there, this song called Bullets Ain't Got No Names. And I was like, yo, this is fucking incredible.
All it takes is one, like they always say.
But once again, trouble found its way back into his life. Right after signing his deal, he was at a party where an underage female falsely accused him and others of sexual acts. Now that he had money from his deal, he was able to hire a good lawyer and beat the case within 2 months, so it was time to push his music to another level. He was getting buzz for a track he had out titled Bullets Ain't Got No Name, which was produced by Kid Ink. This would also be the title of his first mixtape under the label, which dropped in April of 2008 and got his foot into the industry. Now other West Coast rappers like Game and Snoop Dogg started co-signing his movement and made songs with him. He followed this tape up with Volume 2, which had the song Hussle in the House. In the music video to this song, they all wore Crenshaw sweaters, and after this video dropped, people started asking where they could get one. Nipsey, Black Sam, and Fat started selling the shirts on the corner, but the police kept confiscating the clothes, so they ended up leasing a store which would become the original Marathon clothing store. Throughout 2009, Nipsey continued to drop music as his buzz was rising fast, but he was still chasing a mainstream name, despite working with Snoop Dogg, Drake, and many others.
Just trying to make all money.
In 2010, Epic Records had budget cuts, so instead of throwing Nipsey off the label, they decided to give him his own imprint, which birthed the All Money In Records. This momentum got him featured on the 2010 XXL Freshman list alongside J-Rock, Big Sean, and J. Cole. At this point, his name was getting recognized, but his music still wasn't selling the kind of numbers he and the label expected. He ended up deciding to stay fully independent and do it all himself. Wasting no time, he dropped 2 more mixtapes on his own, the Slauson Boys and the Marathon. Although they performed well, the celebration was short-lived, as he and 4 others were taken into custody after an altercation with the police. During the altercation, the police actually fired shots at Black Sam, but they missed and nobody was injured. All 5 were arrested, and Black Sam ended up going away for a few years, resulting in them losing the clothing store for a while, but Nipsey was making moves on the outside. He released his Marathon Continues tape, which did very well and re-entered his name in the LA music scene. One thing about Nipsey that made him stand out was his business mindset. So although his career was going well, it was often that he would buy or open up new businesses like Fat Burger, a cell phone shop, and a hair store, all in his neighborhood. But he also did this with his music and made hip-hop history with it. In 2013, he announced the release of his newest mixtape, Crenshaw, but this was unlike any release we've ever seen. He stated he would only produce 1,000 copies and sell them for $100 each. Initially, he received backlash from just about everyone for this idea, as it sounded crazy, but he was ready to prove everyone wrong.
That's wild. Hey, try to mix up, no pun intended, but try to do something different, instead of doing the same
Just
old
1
thing
month
out
later,
there.
he opened up a pop-up shop in LA for the release of the tape. He sold every copy that same night, with Jay-Z even buying 100 of them.
Yeah,
This was also his first project to break the Billboard 100 and peaked at number 63. For the next few years, Nipsey was touring the world and building his brand. He released a few tapes, but he started to shift his energy toward building his other businesses up. In 2017, he opened up more stores, including a seafood market, the World on Wheels roller rink, and officially reopened his clothing store once again. But he had a surprise up his sleeve. Almost 15 years after his first mixtape, he finally announced his debut album, Victory Lap. In February of 2018, Victory Lap was released and hit number 4 on the Billboard. It sold 53,000 copies its first week and got him nominated for a Grammy. In addition, 2 singles from his album would go gold, giving him his first ever plaques to hang on the wall. Things were going extremely well, momentum was high, and he was finally getting the recognition he deserved all over the US, not just LA. He collabed with Puma, invested in multiple apps, and even bought the entire plaza that his marathon store was connected to.
That's awesome.
This was a huge accomplishment for him, as he said this was the same plaza he used to hustle by, and now he owned it legally.
The space and created the marathon store, but then we just bought the building recently. So
you bought the building?
Yeah, we bought the whole building. Yeah.
His single "Racks in the Middle" with Roddy Ricch dropped and was his highest peaking song to date. Things were looking better than ever for Nipsey. But on March 31st, 2019, Nipsey woke up and headed to the clothing store to help out a friend who was just released from prison and give him some free clothes. He was hanging out and taking pictures with fans like a normal day. At 2:52 p.m. he tweeted, "Having strong enemies is a blessing." But unknowingly, this would be the last thing he said on social media.
It's a huge loss for the rap and hip hop community. He wasn't, just a rapper.
Grammy-nominated rapper Nipsey Hussle shot and killed outside his own clothing store in Los Angeles.
That's crazy.
Gun violence has taken the life of Los Angeles rapper Nipsey Hussle.
That's a shame. Can you believe that? Right outside. You never know when something's gonna happen, especially in that lifestyle, but still.
Just minutes later, a man walked up to Nipsey and a few others outside their store and opened fire. Nipsey was shot in the leg, stomach, and back of his head before the gunman ran off. It was hard for many to believe that he was gunned down in the same neighborhood he had worked over a decade to make a better place. The support for Nipsey's passing reached farther than just the hip-hop community, as he represented a lot more than just his music. That was Nipsey Hussle's last day with us, but before his passing, he ensured everyone understood that the marathon would continue.
Best thing to do for a person is to inspire.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing story on one hand and just so sad on the other.
On the other. And that's what most of these stories are. It's like everyone loved Nipsey Hussle, of course us, but there was a lot of jealous people out there as well.
Oh, yeah.
That really seen his success, his dedication, his devotion, and they just wanted to destroy that.
So we're going to talk more about that as we get into some of the questions for our Crime Force team, but just want to say thank you again, Publish X. You did a great job with the production of that, and the editing and the flow was really, really good. And please go subscribe and share there. Now let's get into the questions for our Crime Force team, and then you could add too. I want to add your input as well. How did Nipsey Hussle's unaliving impact the music industry? So you've heard a little bit of it, but you got up to the point where his passing. But what happened afterwards?
Nipsey Hussle's death on March 31st, 2019, had a significant impact on the music industry and beyond. His death brought widespread attention to his work, introducing him to a broader audience that may not have been familiar with him before. Surge in music sales and streams. Following his death, there was a dramatic increase in purchases and streams of Hussle's music. Nielsen Music reported that 2,000 copies of his albums were purchased on the day he died, followed by 9,000 copies the next day. His death sparked conversations about artists' roles in their communities, potentially inspiring other musicians to engage in similar community-focused initiatives. Nipsey Hussle's death not only impacted the music industry directly but also highlighted the potential for artists to make significant contributions to their communities, leaving a lasting legacy that transcends their musical achievements. Major artists and celebrities, including Drake, Rihanna, LeBron James, and John Legend, publicly expressed their grief and admiration for Hussle. Artists like Drake mentioned plans for collaborations that were in the works, highlighting Hussle's growing influence in the industry before his untimely death. Hussle's death emphasized his impact as more than just a musician. It brought attention to his work as an entrepreneur, community activist, and business leader, inspiring others in the industry to focus on similar endeavors.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What were the key moments in Nipsey Hussle's journey from gang affiliation to community leader? Yeah, and then it talked about it a little bit, but it seemed like it was very natural for him. I mean, he did say, okay, he went over to another country, saw the way they were living, I think came back and saw it in his own community, how he can make it better. But I'm curious what the Crime Force team is going to say.
Nipsey Hussle's journey from gang affiliation to community leader was marked by several key moments. At age 14, Hussle joined the Rollin' 60s, a subgroup of the Crips gang in South Los Angeles. A 3-month visit to his father's homeland in East Africa expanded Hussle's worldview and inspired him to become a community activist. Music career launch, 2005 to 2010, Hussle began releasing mixtapes, including his first in 2005 titled A Slauson Boy. His early music often reflected his experiences with gang culture. Hussle sold 1,000 physical copies of his mixtape Crenshaw for $100 each, showcasing his entrepreneurial spirit. Hussle began focusing on giving solutions and inspiration to young black men. He funded improvements to neighborhood schools, participated in educational panels, and started a co-working space called Vector. Grammy nomination, 2019. His debut studio album Victory Lap was nominated for Best Rap Album, marking his mainstream success. Anti-gang violence efforts. In his later years, Hussle openly denounced gun violence through his music and community work.
I didn't know that. That didn't mention
He was scheduled to meet with the Los Angeles Police Commission and LAPD chief to discuss ways to stop gang violence on the day after his death.
Yep.
Throughout this journey, Hussle consistently used his platform and resources to uplift his community, transforming from a gang member to a respected community leader and entrepreneur.
No, that part I didn't know. I mean, the first parts we kind of knew from the video. Right. That was pretty cool.
Now, I wanted to talk about this part because I know the Crime Force is actually going to answer this for us, but tell us about the check-in with the gang presence of dominant.
You mean where the gang presence is dominant?
Yeah. Gang presence is dominant, exactly, because...
The check-in?
The check-in. So the check-in is when someone comes into Crenshaw near the gang area, they have to actually let them know, like...
You're there?
They're there. Like, I just can't go to this area. So they, they like ownership of this property.
Like that block or that neighborhood. I know there's a lot
it's not, it's more than a block. It's like the neighborhood, this whole neighborhood. You cannot enter in this neighborhood until they call it check in.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
I'm glad you defined that because, you told me this before, so that's how I do. But people out there listening don't know what that is. That's why
that's why I wanted to mention that. That's just like you going until, you got to check in. If you don't check in, something bad can happen.
If you don't check in, you might be checking out.
Yeah. Or you don't check out. Right?
Yeah. Check out of this world is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let's see what they say. I'm curious what they're going to say now.
In neighborhoods like Crenshaw, where gang presence is strong, it is common for individuals, especially those who are not from the area or who have a certain level of visibility, to check in with local gang members for protection. This practice serves as an informal agreement where outsiders acknowledge the authority of local gangs to ensure their safety while they are in the area. This dynamic can be particularly pronounced for celebrities or public figures who may attract attention and could be seen as potential targets for violence or robbery.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting, but some people don't even know that, but that's, and even if you're high up, even if you're a rapper and you want to go there, you can still... And they call it like protection.
You still gotta check in.
Yeah, check in. Don't forget to check in, guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is the last one. I think this last one we have. How did Nipsey Hussle's death affect his fans and the community? I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but yeah, I think that's a great question because we want to know a little bit more of the aftermath.
Nipsey Hussle's death on March 31st, 2019, had a profound impact on his fans and the community. His death sparked an outpouring of grief from fans, celebrities, and community members alike. Even non-fans were deeply affected by the loss. Many young people, especially students in the surrounding community, felt a sense of hopelessness following his death. Fans began to emphasize Hussle's motivational words and actions, using phrases like "the marathon continues" to honor his legacy. His death brought widespread attention to his work, introducing him to a broader audience. Hussle's passing inspired many to continue his efforts in community development and anti-violence initiatives. His death prompted discussions about violence in urban communities and the challenges faced by those trying to make positive changes. Educators and community leaders noted the long-lasting effect of Hussle's death on young people in his neighborhood. Many were motivated to pursue entrepreneurship and community improvement in honor of Hussle's legacy. Hussle's death was described as a bomb to the culture, waking people up to the importance of his message and work. Even years after his death, fans and community members continue to feel the loss and strive to keep his memory and mission alive.
Oh, I guess there's one more that came in. Did they find the person who unalived Nipsey Hussle?
Yes, his name is Eric R. Holder Jr., the man convicted of unaliving rapper Nipsey Hussle, was sentenced to 60 years to life in prison on February 22, 2023. This sentencing followed his conviction for first-degree unaliving, which occurred after he fatally shot Hussle outside the Marathon clothing store in Los Angeles on March 31, 2019.
Yeah. Well, that's it for our Crime Force. Thank you guys again. We appreciate you. And now let's get into our final thoughts here. So, yeah, I mean, that's the one thing maybe as a follow-up sometime is, and or maybe they just don't know, I think, in the research is what was the real reason. It could be for many different reasons.
Exactly. And of course, they say Eric was the one that probably pulled the trigger. Who knows behind the scenes actually what happened? A lot of people said it was still gang related. He was in a gang. Sometimes when you're in those gangs, sometimes they don't even want you to come out the gang. And so it's a lot of stuff, a lot of discrepancies. And people don't really know if he really did it. He might just be the one that just take the fall. So they
could have been exchange of words, anything, right?
Yeah, exactly. But but it's not. Yeah, it's just maybe a lot more behind the scenes that we don't know. It's just the fact is that he created a lot of people that loved him, which is I am one of the people. I just love that entrepreneurship. I love that dedication, and unfortunately, a lot of people, especially like African Americans, they really don't have much, so they got to go to sell drugs to get money. But to do something like 50 Cent is another person that actually did that too. Yeah, but they want to get out. They don't want to stay in that, most
they don't want that life.
Exactly.
But it's kind of like you got to go through hell to get to heaven. They had, there's a, they had an end goal, but sometimes people, if you're producing and doing well in that gang, they don't want you to leave because you're such an asset to them. But yeah, you have the goal, because I mean, people think studio. Now today it's pretty cheap. With very little money, you can get a good microphone and your computer recording equipment. But back around even that time frame, you still need a decent amount of money. So you had to go out there and do that. I like besides the music is decent, but it's also, I like his hustle, to your point, the entrepreneurship and being a little smart with the money. I'm sure he spent it, as you know, but he had those different businesses. He had that portfolio entrepreneurial thought process, and how he learned it and how he put it into practice, whether when he was younger and when he was older. It's very impressive.
Yes.
Very sad case of yet another artist way too young pass with this. Any final thoughts?
Yes, just want to say my heart still goes out to the family. And this is like one of the cases I felt like I had to do and give him some more recognition of what he was doing. But a lot of powerful people out there, you know, their lives is just too short. Him, Tupac, there's a lot of other ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and unfortunately, who knows when this will ever end. But thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate it. Until next time.
Studio 70.
Out.